before we start off this video, it's going to be cut into several sections, and at the bottom of the screen you could see little bars that indicate what part of the video you are on. Timestamps will be in the description as well. So I'm going to show and explain to you exactly what sanity is, and how it affects your survival, and how to overcome it and utilize it in DST. So first things first, what in the world is that brain looking thingy? That is your sanity, and over time it will go down. Whether it be from darkness or monsters or anything of the sort, you'll soon come to find out that it's shrinking. Which leads us into our second question. What exactly does it do? Well, at first not much, but the lower and lower it gets, you'll start to notice changes around you. The screen getting darker, your screen waving, your character holding his head and wobbling around. Then finally, these shadows start coming for you, and before you even know it, you're dead by day 20. Sounds familiar? Well, now we have another question. What do we do about it? There are several options the game has for us, and one of them being to fight off the monsters and receive the rewards that come. Let's start with how to overcome with not having any sanity, and in a bit you'll see the top 8 ways to actually get sanity. As I mentioned earlier, there are clearly some drawbacks, but there are not actually that many that come with being insane. Yeah, your screen might look like crap, but the only real cons are 1. Nightmares spawn around you that not only drain your sanity when near, but actually attack you, and if you're not being careful can easily overwhelm you and kill you. 2. Some creatures change form when you're low on sanity and can be more harmful that way, the most notable being the bunnymen. Being that if your sanity is lower than 40% of your max, then they will turn into beard lords. Pretty similar, but instead of being all soft and cuddly, will drain your sanity to be even lower than before, and drop, instead of a meat, carrot, or puff, will drop 2 beard hair and 1 monster meat. And bunnies will turn into beardlings, but really they aren't that different. They just have different drops and lower your sanity when near. And that's it. So now it's time to learn how to kill these shadows and what exactly can they do for you. Firstly, I recommend turning your lag compensation off in your game settings to help with combat in general, though not necessary. And always wear armor when fighting shadows until you get really comfortable with fighting them. Which simply all there is to it is to bait the attack, then right after, swing at him a few times, then bait the attack again and repeat that till death. That's all there is to it. Later on, you can learn how to double attack them, but that's an advanced move that sole purpose is to kill them faster, which is not necessary. Great, now you have conquered the only threat that insanity has to offer, but having 2 nightmares can be a little tricky, which you can learn to line up all the shadows to bait both their attacks and then repeat till dead. And what is the main prize for killing these awful monsters, you ask? Nightmare fuel. And this stuff is the maker of the most powerful weapon in the game, the necessary ingredient for the best gear in the game, and for fueling previous said gear. Now I won't get into detail on all of its uses, but just know that you will need a lot of it late game. Now there isn't that many different nightmares that host any threat to you while being insane, or even when sane. Starting with the crawling horror, being the easiest to kill and not posing too much of a threat, now that you know how to fight them. Next up being the terror beak, which isn't too different from a crawling horror. You fight them the exact same way, but the terror beak is a lot faster and does more damage. Which if you had to fight both at the same time, fight the terror beak, then the crawler. Next up, the water terror beak. It's quite lethal and hard to fight. Don't even bother fighting these things. Then we got the shadow hand, which all it does is put out fires. And it happens even when you're sane, so just watch out when you're low on fuel and you need your campfire lit, or it may cause an unnecessary death from dear old darkness. There are also several nightmares that don't do anything, but when you see them, unless you plan on killing Fuel Weaver, then these guys don't do anything. And then there are the crawling nightmares and the nightmare beaks, which are the same as their other versions, except they are only found in the caves and they don't give sanity when killed, which is what I want to talk about next. Most of the time you only run into the crawling horrors and the terror beaks, being the 2 most common by far. And what is interesting is that when killed, not only do they drop 1 to 2 nightmare fuel, they also give sanity back when killed. Crawling horror giving 15 and the terror beak giving 33. So pretty much when you're insane and you kill 1 to 2 of them, most of the time you get sane again. Barely sane, but sane nonetheless, which is not that hard to accomplish. The basic tasks are going to take longer if a nightmare pops up, let's say when you're picking grass, though it isn't that hard to kill it and continue on. But there are times when it's not smart to be insane, pretty much being just boss fights. That's it. So let's get right into exactly how to gain sanity and when it's best to be sane or insane. Starting with number 8. Picking flowers. This is at the bottom of the list because I highly recommend you don't pick flowers because butterflies spawn from them, and a killed butterfly gives 8 health each, plus a chance for butter, so I wouldn't do this even if I were desperate. For number 7, Evil Flower Sanity Farm, which was nerfed. Now, this one and the rest of them are not by any means bad ways to get sanity, but this one just takes too long, requiring to catch like 30 butterflies, then planting them, then dying, haunting the flowers for a 50% chance to turn them evil, then revive yourself, kill Bee Queen, then finally you can use this farm, which makes you a sitting duck, though it is a cool decoration for something like a mega base. Number 6, a tent. For 6 silk and 3 rope and 3 twigs, I think, you can make a tent that you can sleep in during the afternoon and dark, and it gives 2 health a second and 1 sanity a second at the cost of hunger. This is a pretty good one for beginners, though again the same problem, I hate being idle, so I tend to go to other sources. Number 5, Crockpot foods and refined foods. Now I won't get too into detail on every food, but taffy and the new leafy meat recipes from the Crockpot can save you in a jiffy, if you got the resources. And both ingredients can be mass produced. Then there are the foods like jerky, which you can put pretty much every meat on except for leafy meat, and in a day or two, you get jerky that gives either 10 to 15 sanity, excluding monster meat. Number 4, the new Celestial Crown. Now this item is from the Eye of the Storm beta and may be changed by the time the update releases, but as it is a hat with unlimited durability that gives 9-ish sanity per minute as well as a massive light radius. And this one would be even higher if it weren't for how hard it is to obtain. But for those who haven't seen the update, no spoilers from me. Next up, number 3, the Shanter. Now some of y'all might be really surprised that I put it at number 3, but I'm expecting that you need sanity quick, not a trickle charge. And this eliminates the ability to wear head armor, which is not good for when you have to fight nightmares. Anyway, it is a hat that is dropped from Mac Tusk and gives a little over 6 sanity a minute, and will bring your sanity up even during the afternoon. I have a guide video on how to obtain it in my top 10 tips video. And in the number 2 slot, we have prototyping things, which is by far the easiest way to get sanity early game. Whenever you make a new item from something like the Science Machine or the Shadow Manipulator, you get 15 sanity straight up, but it only works the first time you make a new item, so if you need sanity quick, you can prototype silly things like the hay walls or the pitchfork and hoe, and you'll be sane again, in no time for really cheap. And finally for number 1 we got Cactus. Cooked cactus really. And all you do is get armor, which if you get Wormwood's bramble husk you don't even take damage. Head on to the desert and pick all the cactus you see, and cook it up and you'll get 15 sanity per cactus. And while wearing armor and picking the cactus, you only lose 1 health per cactus, and when you cook it, it gives you 1 health. This is my favorite method and one of the best in my opinion. So there's how to get sanity, but the question still stands. What is better, being sane or insane? Well, personally, I stay insane until I get enough fuel to satisfy me, which is never enough really. Then when I'm ready, I just pop sane and enjoy my well-earned fuel, and stay sane through boss after boss. Then when I run out, I go insane and farm some more. So it's up to you what you choose, but if you never bother to get any nightmare fuel ever, then you're missing out on so much the game has to offer. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this guide, and I'll see you all in the next one.